Holla if you hear me. It's time for another volume of the Cinema Chronicles right here on Nashville Movie Dispatch. I am your host with that moist voice, Brandon Vick. What am I? I'm a member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association, a board member of the Music City Film Critics Association, and the good old resident film critic of Nashville Movie Dispatch. We are less than a week away from Halloween. I've been doing as much as I can to get into this spooky season. We've done some pumpkin carving. We've done some pumpkin patches. I have seen some scary movies. I've actually watched quite a few, I feel like, but I still have got some I've got to watch, like Paranorman and, of course, Halloween. Even though I watched Halloween 2 the other day. And that one, you know what? That's a better movie than I thought it was. And I haven't seen that in probably 20 years at least. So really getting in the spirit. I think we're gonna actually be going over to our EIC Stoney's place and gonna try and hit up some of them big houses. It's got all that rich candy. I always root for the white chocolate Reese's. I'm not supposed to have them, but I do like to smell them, and sometimes I'll get a little lick. So, and there's not really a lot of candy that my wife likes, and my son can't really eat that much candy. So I don't really, you know what? I don't even know why we go trick-or-treating. Actually, I do. It's because he loves it. And I love seeing him love it. And so we're doing that on Halloween. And my son is going to be the Grinch and or witch, because we might have some costume changes. I'm not sure. But I don't know what my wife is going to be. We haven't really talked about anything as far as us dressing up. But I have sort of had this idea, and I know a lot of people I've seen, I think are either going to be dressed up like Bob from One Battle After Another. And I like that idea. I think it's fantastic. But I'm going to go as Colonel Lockjaw with a boner. So I'm not sure. That's probably not going to fit into what my wife is going to be dressed up as. I don't think it really would fit in with anything that anyone is having, unless there was a Bob or Beverly Hills. I mean, something. I would need a Benicio del Toro Sensei. I don't think I'm going to see any of them while I'm trick-or-treating with my son, but if I do, oh, what a group we'll have. So really excited about about that. It's supposed to be like in the 50s out here in Nashville that day. So I've been really craving that fall weather, and I like what I'm seeing. So before we get into the three movies I've got for this volume of the Cinema Chronicles, just want to throw it out there. We have a ton of stuff that is everything Halloween / spooky season on NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. There are movie review rewinds. There have been drinking whiffs. We've got, appreciate everybody who watched the live stream of Saw that we did with our friend Brittany, who out there at Danger Zone Video. I've got a review of Good Boy. So plenty of stuff as to check out as spooky season starts to wind down and Halloween is quickly approaching. So let me tell you something. Let me tell y'all something. These three movies we're about to go over, ain't none of them stinkers. All of them are good, pretty good. No stinkers this round. But we're going to start with Channing Tatum gets to live at a Toys R Us? Sign me up. Next. I'm talking about Roofman, and this is per Rotten Tomatoes. Based on an unbelievable true story, Roofman follows Jeffrey Manchester, played by Channing Tatum, an Army veteran and struggling father who turns to robbing McDonald's restaurants by cutting holes in the roofs, earning him the nickname, you guessed it, Roofman. After escaping prison, he secretly lives inside a Toys R Us for 6 months, surviving undetected while planning his next move. But when he falls for Lee, Kirsten Dunst, a divorced mom drawn to his undeniable charm, his double life begins to unravel, setting off a compelling and suspenseful game of cat and mouse as his past closes in. So this is Derek Cianfrance's true story dramedy that brilliantly walks this fine line between goofy and affectionate with a career best from Channing Tatum. His charm and comedy / foolishness and vulnerability is on full display and works really well for something that can't be defined by just one genre. I mean, it's a crime caper, it's a rom-com, it's a character study drama, it's everything. Jeff, which again, this is based on a true story. Jeff, who Channing Tatum plays, is a very nice, genuine guy who makes some bad choices, but I mean, they're ones that he can't, as best as he tries, he can't hide from them forever. He's also maybe perhaps the most polite robber to ever live. But as great as Tatum is, and it is, this really, really goes towards all of the strengths that he has as an actor and that we've seen in some form or fashion over all the movies he's been in. It's Kirsten Dunst to me who amazes the most with a subtle but beautiful portrayal of a mother who is grounded and sensible. I think having that approach and having the way that she is portraying Lee, it adds a significant layer of emotion. And it doesn't hurt that her and her chemistry with the Tatum is sublime. I know in the movie Lee works at Toys R Us, but I did find out, and I think I read it, but I think Kirsten Dunst may be on Seth Meyers or Colbert, some late night show. And Channing Tatum may have said this as well, but in real life, she did not work at Toys R Us. But I get it for story purposes. I was kind of hoping she really did work at Toys R Us, but he did really live inside of Toys R Us. So, I mean, we have that. Now, the supporting cast certainly consists of some fantastic talent, but they don't. It's nice to see them, but they don't really do much here. This is from a Robert Ebert review that's by Maria E. Gates. It says the toy store's manager, Mitch, who's played by the great Peter Dinklage, is basically represents every shitty manager anyone who's ever worked in retail would recognize. Similarly, Ben Middleton and Uzo Aduba as Lee's pastor and his wife, respectively, are stereotypes of Southern hospitality and good Christian values. Lakeith Stanfield is in this. He does his best in his few scenes to add some sincerity to his role as Jeff's friend, but his talents are mostly wasted in a nothing role. Meanwhile, as Steve's girlfriend, that's Lakeith Stanfield's character's, his girlfriend, Juno Temple, basically reuses her same accent from Killer Joe without any of the complexity of character. So, I mean, look, a lot of good names in that, but I'm in agreement with Maria there. It's none of them really result to anything that you can actually connect to, and there's actually substance there. So, I mean, it really does kind of fall on Tatum and Dunst. In that same review, the RogerEbert.com review, there was some criticism about how Roofman avoids really kind of diving deeper into why Jeff chooses to go down such a path that is filled with wrong choices, and I somewhat agree with her, as there's clearly more to uncover about Jeff than just the McDonald's break-ins and him running amok in Toys R Us and eating all their M&Ms. In this review, it says that Roofman refuses to examine the societal pressures or systems that led a man like Jeff to believe rampant consumerism was essential for a happy family. Nor does it seek to understand the psychology at play for a veteran returning to society, having seen the worst of things, only to be thrust into the system that makes him believe he can't give his family the kind of lifestyle they deserve. Listen, there is quite a bit of truth to that. But nevertheless, this is Cianfrance's most crowd-pleasing film to date. This is the guy that directed Blue Valentine and A Place Beyond the Pines. So, some heavy shit. But I think he's having some real fun with Roofman while effectively exhibiting empathy, humanity, and heart from a wild true story, essentially about a father who needed to be there in ways he wasn't and how he stayed constantly desperate for connection. The whole Toys R Us thing it made me really miss not just toy stores, but specifically Toys R Us. That was a big deal when I was a kid. I couldn't wait to go there. I remember sometimes I would have to go with my parents to their silly, stupid adult stores before I could go to Toys R Us. But let me tell you something. Once you were there and those doors slid open, it was like the gates of heaven opening. It didn't matter what you wanted. Toys R Us had it. And it's sort of it's sad that that stuff just no longer exists, and it's just whatever things are hanging on a rack at Target or Walmart, they're not toy stores. So it made me really, really miss it. And I thought it was pretty cool because apparently Derek Cianfrance actually had a Toys R Us built fit to the time period of when all this was going on. This is a via IndieWire piece, says why Derek Cianfrance lightened up after Blue Valentine and more for the mainstream comedy Roofman. And they say for him, one key place where he put a lot of his resources was the Toys R Us store where Jeff spends most of his time. We found this old Toys R Us that was completely gutted, and one tile at a time, production designer Inbel Weinberg put it back together. 2,000 fluorescent lights. She had to put in all the copper wire that had been stripped. We had to restore the electricity, and then we had to fill it with period toys. It takes a lot of toys to fill up a toy store. That just blows my mind that not only technically they found a Toys R Us, so I guess it wasn't built from scratch, but they basically had to build the whole inside and make it very, very timely in what was going on and the toys that were available then. And again, it's very nostalgic in a very exceptional way because you're sort of reliving your childhood while he's going around jumping from all these different toys, and like you're looking at these on the racks and on the shelves and you're like, oh, I remember that, or oh, I have this. And so honestly, it could have just been a movie about Toys R Us and I probably would still be bragging about it. So Roofman, it's pretty cool how Roofman ends by showing the real people involved and these first person accounts of all of their interactions with Jeff. Lee is in it. Also the guy who actually ends up playing himself in the movie when he first escapes prison in this truck, and some of the people that were actually robbed by Jeff at these McDonald's. But the one I found most impactful, and it is the last one, and it's featuring the real Lee, and she talked about her daughters, and that kind of relationship and bond is shown in the film. But I love how she is explaining how her daughters like really took a liking to Jeff, And she says they didn't have one bad thing to say about him. And I feel like that was basically what how everyone felt. Even when he was robbing you, that's just who he was. And Channing Tatum really brought that to life in a pretty fantastic way. So Vick's Flicks rating, Roofman, 3.5 out of 5. Solid movie. Channing Tatum's great. Kirsten Dunst is fabulous. Go check it out. Coming up next, a filmmaker who refuses to be silent. I'll talk about that and his newest film when we get back. There is a film that is going to be out. It's out in limited release now and will be playing at the Belcourt in the middle of November. I think November 14th. It's called It Was Just an Accident. It's been getting huge critical praise since Cannes. And I want to start by talking about the filmmaker Jafar Panahi. There's a Hollywood Reporter piece called "The World's Most Acclaimed Descendant Filmmaker." It says Jafar Panahi was not born a descendant filmmaker. He never strived to become one. He had the mantle of descendant artist thrust upon him by the regime in Tehran. In 2009, after he had attended the funeral of a student killed in the so-called Green Revolution protest, the government banned him from leaving the country. In 2010, citing his plans to shoot a film with the protests as a backdrop, the government slapped him with a 20-year ban on travel and filmmaking, along with a 6-year suspended prison sentence for propaganda against the system. Panahi was famous in international art house circles before the ban. The White Balloon from 1995 won the Cannes Camera d'Or for Best First Feature. The Circle from 2000 earned Venice's Golden Lion for Best Film. Panahi himself rejects the label of political filmmaker. He's quoted as saying, "In my definition, a political filmmaker defends an ideology where the good follow it and the bad oppose it. In my films, even those who behave badly are shaped by the system, not personal choice. But it is undeniable that the 64-year-old Iranian director has become a global symbol of political resistance and artistic integrity." Briefly, it looked as if No Bears might be his last film. He was arrested and imprisoned in July 2022. Authorities detained him, citing the original 2010 conviction after he went to inquire about the arrest of his friend, fellow descendant director Mohammad Rasulov. He did The Seed of the Sacred Fig. But after 6 months in Tehran's notorious Evin prison, Panahi was released in February of 2023 following a hunger strike. Amazingly, Iran's Supreme Court ruled in his favor, quashing the 2010 conviction on a technicality. There was no more house arrest, there was no more travel ban, and as this writing, he had not been to Cannes yet, but that he was expected to travel there, his first time in person at the festival since a film called Crimson Gold, which was in 2003. So all of this is sort of just kind of setting the stage for the kind of filmmaker he is. And this leads us to his latest, or It's Just an Accident. It has a simplistic story, but does reveal itself to be a powerful and provocative examination of how pain from the past manifests into a thirst for vengeance. These cast of characters have been deeply scarred by a ruthless regime, and if given the opportunity, they, of course, sure as hell want to see some kind of justice served. Though, what are those consequences in doing so? That is the question. By the end, a film about oppression and suffering, as well as preserving one's humanity, is unexpectedly funny, but exceedingly intense, emotionally shattering, and so brilliantly expressed. In that same Hollywood Reporter piece, it says his latest, which premiered on May 20th in competition, it was actually shot in secret, like every one of his films since 2010. It says the plot was directly inspired by Panahi's experiences in prison, follows a released descendant who, thinking he recognizes one of his prison torturers, sets out for vengeance, but soon he begins to question if more violence is the right way to bring about justice. In this piece, they ask him, where did the theme of the film about whether violence can ever be justified in seeking justice come from? Jafar says it all really came from prison, this reflection about violence or nonviolence. What's really remarkable in prison is the diversity of the kind of people that you learn to sit with and talk. There were all kinds of people. There were experts. There were great sociologists. There were brilliant students. There were workers, all these people together. We started organizing lectures. There was this great sociologist called Professor Sahid Madani, sentenced to 9 years, they say in 2022. And we asked Madani to organize lectures for us. Whatever prisoner wanted to come and listen to him at some point, they did ban this. So we would take advantage of our exercise hour. When they took us out for 1 hour to go and exercise, we started walking with him and listening to his lectures during this break time. So Madani seems to play a big part in what in how it was just an accident formulated for Jafar. He continues, says, so the themes in this film are not necessarily only personal. It isn't only about my own struggles, but about all these people that I spent time with and I shared these experiences with. All these characters that you see in this film were inspired by conversations that I had, stories that they told me about, the violence and the brutality of the Iranian government with prisoners, violence that has been ongoing for more than 4 decades now. No matter what's going on in the here and now, we all have this common history. We hear the stories we share with our compatriots and these issues about how we have to react to this brutality, are issues we all have to reflect on. The performances in this movie are enthralling across the board. There is a thrilling pace from the start, leaving us never quite knowing where we're headed next. And the ending, there are these final few moments that will have you holding your breath. You're absolutely seeing and feeling these experiences expressed in the manner in which they're expressed in. You're absolutely shaken by what you see and what you hear. And I don't know. I mean, it's definitely one of the best endings of a film this year, but I think it kind of goes beyond that. And I'm not going to spoil anything. I don't want to reveal anything. It's such a small detail, but it rings so much feelings and fear, and it's brilliantly done. This ended up, so the piece in the Hollywood Reporter was before Cannes Film Festival. Well, this ended up winning the Palme d'Or at this year's Cannes Film Festival. And while watching this, I couldn't help but think of a film that I got to see at the Nashville Film Festival called All That's Left of You. It's a film about a Palestine family that deals with oppression and pain and scars. So obviously there's a real spiritual connection to It Was Just an Accident. And both are very worthy of your attention. And I think what they most have in common, besides being two of the best films of the year, is that they are both immensely painful and poignant and profound. These experiences just seem so unimaginable, but then when they're there and you're watching it, and obviously Jafar Panahi is, I feel like I have to say his last name twice to make sure I'm getting it right. So just in case you're wondering, I'm not stuttering. I'm doing that on purpose. Anyway, what he has experienced and what he has shared, and I mean, as I said at the top of this, everything he's been doing has been to defeat oppression, to get his truth out, to make sure that he will never be silenced. I mean, the man, I mean, what, for almost 15 years has been filming his films in secrecy. I mean, it's wild to think about. And like I said, it was just an accident. On surface is a very simple tale of almost, is it being like, are you is this kind of a, hey, this guy looks like that guy? I mean, is it a mistaken identity situation? What's under this? What do you do? And then each choice leads to something that is more, some would say, silly or stupid, but also more grave, but also more intense. But then as these decisions keep coming about, they are part of what is stemming inside them, and has been since their horrific treatment, and all that trauma. So again, one of the best of the year. It's well worth it. It's in theaters now. Here locally in Nashville, it'll be at the Belcourt November 14th, I believe. It was just an accident. Gets a VIX Flix rating of 4 out of 5. And then coming up next, I couldn't do a Cinema Chronicles in October without at least one scary movie. And I got it for you next. The Grabber is back doing his thing in Black Phone 2. Per Rotten Tomatoes, 4 years ago, 13-year-old Finn killed his abductor and escaped, becoming the sole survivor of the Grabber. But true evil transcends death, and the phone is ringing again. Ethan Hawke returns to the most sinister role of his career as the Grabber seeks vengeance on Finn, played by Mason Thames, from beyond the grave by menacing Finn's younger sister Gwen, played by Madeline McGraw. As Finn, now 17, struggles with life after his captivity, the headstrong 15-year-old Gwen begins receiving calls in her dreams from the Black Phone and seeing disturbing visions of 3 boys being stalked at a winter camp known as Alpine Lake. Determined to solve the mystery and end the torment for both her and her brother, Gwen persuades Finn to visit the camp during a winter storm. There, she uncovers a shattering intersection between the Grabber and her own family's history. Together, she and Finn must confront a killer who has grown more powerful in death and more significant to them than they could ever imagine. Scott Derrickson is back as the director and co-writer, along with C. Robert Cargill. They both return for, I think most of us can agree, an unexpected sequel that's actually is not too interested in copying the first one. So I give it huge props just right out of the gate for that. But it does certainly feel familiar when you kind of compare it to the horror of the 80s. I think Freddy Krueger would be very proud. Stalking and killing in your dreams is what Freddy has made his living on. So I think he would be proud. Black Phone 2 explores and expands quite splendidly on the original. There's more to these characters. They're a bit older. There's more involved. There's also this question of what are they doing now after what happened in Black Phone. They also go through a little bit of providing some backstory for the Grabber and for Finn and Gwen's mother, who is, sort of mentioned during kind of the arguments with the father. We know Gwen from the first one is, I guess, acting like her mother, kind of experiencing the same thing as if this has been handed down. That definitely is a huge part of the sequel. And the Grabber, I don't really mind. Sometimes it kind of ruins it if you start to kind of go so much into what this character is and does and all this stuff. And so, but they give you a little bit, but not much. And I appreciated that because they are it's starting to become more personal for Finn and Gwen. And so I feel like there had to be this kind of element that would connect them. And so I like the decision that was made for that. I think it's because it's trying to keep that same kind of energy and vibe from Black Phone, but also not to kind of retread on the same thing that they've done. This one is a bit bolder and more bonkers. Um, again, a lot of it does happen within kind of the dream sequences, and it's removed from reality in a way. But I mean, it's still brutal. It's still vicious. But I will say that the tension and sort of the surprises aren't really present in this one. It is kind of more of just of an old school slasher movie, and I mean, obviously it has supernatural elements, as did the first one, but one thing that Black Phone does have that I mean is the soul of the movie is the atmosphere and location. It's in the Rocky Mountains. It's icy. It's cold. And it's very isolated. So I mean, you've got, when you have that stuff going on in a horror movie on top of Ethan Hawke as the grabber, it's going to be chilling in at least some way. There was a variety piece about titled Black Phone 2, director Scott Derrickson on perfect horror sequels, making high school scares, and his thoughts about Black Phone 3. So in this interview, they asked him, the Black Phone felt isolated, but Black Phone 2 embraced a lot of horror iconography. Was that a deliberate choice or a matter of subconscious influence? And Derrickson says that was very conscious. Part of what was exciting to me about waiting until the kids were in high school was that a high school horror movie demands more violence and more scariness than a middle school supernatural thriller, which is really what the Black Phone is. So that's kind of where those supernatural elements still play a part, but obviously that has been stripped away in the sequel. And because it's brutal and vicious, I would definitely say, yeah, there's more blood in this one for sure. In terms of the influences, Derrickson says, I recognized that I was making a movie set in 1982, and that's the era of all these summer camp slasher movies that were following Friday the 13th. I watched dozens of those in the 80s, and what I liked was the idea of doing that, but setting it in the winter camps that I went to in the Rocky Mountains. That's not something I had seen before. There's something very distinctive about those locations and the perilousness of the weather, the cinematic power of the landscape, and the enclosed quality of it. So on the one hand, I thought it belonged to the horror genre of that era, talking about Black Phone 2, but on the other hand, he felt like it was quite fresh. Another thing that I thought was that keeps it very distinct, and also, again, another smart choice, is that during the dream sequences, they're very much shot in a very different way. It's very grainy, Super 8 footage. So you're never confused on when someone is dealing with the grabber, whether it's in a dream or whether the violence is happening in the real world. There's always a very clear distinction on that. I thought that was a smart move. I also just love the way that Super 8 footage looks on the big screen. Performances, nothing. All of them are almost from good to great. I mean, Mason Thames, he was in the first one. He was just in that How to Train Your Dragon live action movie back in June. It's funny because if you watch the first one and then go see the second one, it's sort of changed. He's the one beating up someone. He's the one that's kind of finishing the fights, and there's very much this anger and fear and trauma of the grabber, and he's still dealing with it in his own way, which means he's not really talking about it. He's getting stoned all the time. And I like that we're also seeing, that what happened in the first one, it's not like life just moves on and then you forget about it. So I thought Mason Thames did a nice job. Ethan Hawke, he's not in it. He's in it quite a bit. I And I really think he's so good as the grabber. And I'm sure everybody has been seeing the costumes. More people will be dressed up as him, I'm sure, for this year. But I really like what he does, and just with some of the, just in the ways of like the way his voice will change depending on what he's like, the sentence or a word he's wanting to deliver, his movements on top of kind of carrying the torch for the 80s horror flicks that, I mean, have made the biggest impression on us, which, I mean, again, is your Friday the 13th. There's the Jason Voorhees, but even like for Halloween with Michael Myers. I think the grabber, I don't know if he's on that level, but I'd say, look down a level or two, and I think it's a solid character with a fantastic look. And I like that we're expanding into who he was and now sort of what he is, because he died in the first one and he's dead in this one. But which kind of leads to where there was an Entertainment Weekly piece where it had Ethan Hawke dreams of a Black Phone trilogy, and he says, "I'd like to go to hell with the grabber." He said, the piece says, Hawke never imagined the first Black Phone would be so commercially successful that it would prompt the studio to ask for another. Should Blumhouse and Universal return to ask for yet another, assuming people go to see the sequel, Hawke does see a trilogy in here somewhere. He's quoted saying, "I've read other scripts that they've worked on, even Doctor Strange," Hawke says of Derrickson and his writing partner Cargill. "Genre is a great place to play, and every genre is kind of a sequel in a way because you're building off such pre-existing expectations. I would like to go to hell with the grabber. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to get to know him. That would be my dream for the third one, to let it be a character piece about what made him who he is now and how he's haunting other people's dreams." So clearly Hawke is very, I think he has this sort of fondness for this character and wants to kind of see it through. And even though there was a little bit that is uncovered here, it sounds like he kind of wants to go all the way in the third one, where it sounds like, and I think it's a great idea, where maybe the grabber is the main character and it's not so much about Finn and Gwen anymore. Also, shout out to Damian Bachir. He plays this religious counselor whose presence provides a sense of warmth and compassion, which is what these kids need now more than ever, after 4 years of surviving the grabber. His character represents this kind of nice connection to their mom as well, and as well as to the Alpine camp. So it's I liked his character. He's a great actor, and I feel like he sort of has just kind of shown up in horror movies lately. But Damian Bachir is good, and then Madeline McGraw, who plays Gwen, I thought she was great in the first one. She's kind of the sassy 15-year-old, and she's kind of there to protect him. And I think somewhere Scott Derrickson had said that sort of the tables had turned in this one, where the movie is really about Gwen, and it's Finn who's trying to protect her this time. She is great. The emotion, the intensity, the fear, everything that she's trying to convey, I mean, it comes out in full force. I really like the direction they took with kind of expanding on what she can do, what her mother had done, this gift, if you want to call it that. I don't know if Gwen would consider it a gift or not, but you kind of dive into that family history and Gwen trying to grapple with that, because clearly it was affecting her in the first one, and it's really advanced here in the second one. But she does such a great job carrying the movie. I like that we kind of switched directions and we're kind of focused on Gwen, because the grabber wants to hurt Finn. And how does he hurt Finn? He wants to hurt his sister. And so, but Madeline McGraw, again, fantastic performance. And like I said, she just brings so much to Gwen, and it's amazing just within just a few years of what she was doing in the first one and how she's just matured, but also how her talents, she has kind of brought those to the next level to the sequel, and she's great. So Black Phone 2, I don't know. I would say it probably goes beyond the first one. And I think a lot of it is because of these creative choices that were made to kind of be this partner to the first one, but not be trapped by it. I think they did a nice job by bringing everyone back, making it different, exploring more, digging a little deeper, and I really don't know what else you would want from a sequel. I think it's a pretty solid horror sequel. And if that third one comes and Ethan Hawke gets his wish, then I'll be there to see it. Vick's Flicks rating for Black Phone 2, which of course you can see now. What better time? It gets a 3.5 out of 5. And that'll do it for this month's Cinema Chronicles. Again, you can check out all of our work at NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. A ton of spooky season stuff, ton of Halloween stuff. And hey, you know what? Until next time, just go see a damn movie. Oh.